Have you ever felt like the only thing standing in your way is you? Not your job, not the people around you, not your past. You. That quiet voice in your head whispering, "You're not ready, you're not good enough. What if you fail?" It shows up when you're about to take the first step, when you're finally gaining momentum, when you're closest to becoming someone you've never been before. That voice doesn't shout, it doesn't need to. It just plants doubt and watches you stop. You've felt it, haven't you? That silent tug pulling you back into your comfort zone, back into what's familiar, even if it's miserable. You've made plans, promises, and dreams in the daylight, only to abandon them in the dark corners of your mind. Not because you couldn't, but because something inside told you it was safer not to try. That voice isn't some stranger. It's you. And that's what makes this battle so hard to win. Because how do you fight the part of yourself that sounds so convincing? This isn't about motivation. It's about survival. Because if you keep losing to that inner voice, you lose time, you lose confidence, you lose you. Every time you let fear choose for you, you teach your mind that comfort matters more than courage, that silence is better than self-expression, that dreams are for other people. But you weren't born to stay small. Deep down, you know that. You've always known. That's why you feel restless, frustrated, stuck, not because you're broken, but because you're not living as who you were meant to be. Here's the truth most people won't tell you. Everyone has that voice. Even the strongest, even the most successful. The difference is they learn to rise above it. They stopped believing the lie that discomfort is danger. They stopped waiting for confidence and started building it. And that can be you too. But first, you have to realize what's really going on. You're not just facing challenges, you're facing yourself. Your doubt, your fear, your hesitation. This fight isn't about proving anything to the world. It's about proving something to you, that you have more power than you think. If you keep watching, something will shift. Not because of magic, not because of hype, but because the truth has a way of waking people up. And deep down, a part of you is already stirring. That part that's tired of shrinking, tired of holding back, tired of the same cycle year after year. You're here for a reason, not by accident. You know there's more inside you. And that feeling, that pressure building in your chest, that's not anxiety. That's your potential begging for air. So stay with this. Listen closely, because by the end of this, you won't just understand the battle. You'll be ready to win it. You against you, and this time you don't lose. Your mind is the arena where everything is won or lost, and the truth is, it's not the world that holds you back. It's the invisible war happening inside you every single day. You're not lazy, you're not weak, you're not broken. You're in a battle with a brain that's been trained to protect you from discomfort. It's wired to keep you safe, not successful. Every time you step toward change, your mind sounds the alarm. It doesn't care about your growth. It only cares about your survival. And to your brain, anything new feels like danger. That's why the moment you try to evolve, resistance shows up. Not because you're on the wrong path, but because you're finally moving. You're stepping beyond the edge of what's familiar, and your mind doesn't like that. It will whisper doubt. It will stir anxiety. It will replay every failure, every moment you fell short. It's not trying to destroy you. It thinks it's protecting you. But protection is not the same as purpose. If you want to grow, you have to challenge what your mind believes is true. Your thoughts are not facts. Your fears are not commands. But the longer you accept them without question, the more they shape your reality. Every excuse becomes a pattern. Every hesitation becomes a habit. And soon, you start living a version of life that's so much smaller than the one you were built for. You settle, not because you're content, but because your mind convinced you that more was too risky, that chasing your potential wasn't worth the fear. But here's what fear never tells you. Regret is louder. When you lie in bed at night, it's not the things you tried and failed that haunt you. It's the things you never even attempted. It's the dreams you buried, the steps you didn't take, the version of you that could have been, but never got the chance. And that pain, it's not from losing. It's from never stepping into the arena in the first place. But there's another way. You can rewire what your mind believes. You can teach it that challenge is good, that growth is necessary, that fear is not the enemy. It's the signal you're headed somewhere new. And new is where transformation lives. Every time you act in spite of fear, your brain adapts. Every time you push through resistance, your identity shifts. That's how power is built. Not overnight, not through luck, through repetition. through choosing action even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. You are not a victim of your wiring. You are its author. You get to decide what your thoughts mean. You get to decide what story you live, and right now, you have a choice. Stay inside the lines your mind drew for you, or step beyond them and rewrite what's possible. The world doesn't need another person playing small. It needs you, fully awake, fully alive, and finally free from the lies your mind once believed. The limits you think are real aren't. They're learned, built layer by layer from doubt, fear, failure, and the opinions of others. Somewhere along the way, you stopped testing those limits. You started accepting them. You told yourself, this is just the way I am, but that wasn't truth. That was a decision made in a moment of fear, repeated until it hardened into belief. And now, that belief is boxing you in. But here's the thing, just because you've believed something for years doesn't make it true. It only makes it familiar. You were not born thinking small. You were not born afraid to try. You learned that. And if you learned it, you can unlearn it. Your limits are not walls. They are doors waiting to be pushed open. But they will never open if you keep convincing yourself that you don't have the strength to try. That voice that tells you to shrink, to wait, to stop, it's not wisdom. It's fear wearing the mask of logic. And fear is clever. It always finds a reason to wait, to delay, to make sure you never actually move. But waiting is the enemy of change. You don't need more time. You need more truth. And the truth is you've played small for too long. Not because you're incapable, but because you've forgotten how powerful you really are. You've mistaken the comfort of routine for the safety of certainty. But safety isn't freedom. It's a cage dressed as peace. You'll never feel fully alive inside the walls of what's easy. You were built for more, and you know it. That frustration you feel, that restlessness that won't let you sleep, that's not a problem. That's your potential trying to break through. That's your future self screaming from behind the limits you've accepted. And it will not stop until you do something about it. You can't suppress who you're meant to be forever. The longer you delay, the louder the emptiness grows. The world may not see it, but you do. You feel it every time you look in the mirror and wonder if this is all life is supposed to be. It's not. But no one's coming to tear down your limits for you. That's your job. The greatest breakthroughs in life don't happen when the world changes. They happen when you decide you're no longer available for the lies. That you will not live one more year, one more month, one more day believing that who you've been is the best you'll ever be. The real limits are the ones you obey. Stop obeying. Start breaking. Start rebuilding your identity based on who you're becoming, not who you've been. You are not weak. You are not stuck. You are simply standing on the edge of the life you were meant to live. And the only thing left to do now is jump. If you've ever started something that mattered only to walk away from it later, you know the pain of self-sabotage. That quiet, crushing disappointment that doesn't come from failure, it comes from quitting on yourself. Not because you weren't capable, but because somewhere along the path, your mind convinced you that moving forward wasn't worth it. Maybe it said you weren't ready. Maybe it said no one would care. Maybe it gave you a reason that felt justifiable in the moment, but left you empty when it was over. That's how sabotage works. It doesn't shout, it seduces. It offers comfort when things get hard. It says, take a break, do it later. It's not working anyway. And every time you listen, every time you choose ease over effort, you trade growth for stagnation. The worst part? Most of the time you don't even realize it's happening because self-sabotage wears many masks. Procrastination, perfectionism, distraction, even logic. It sounds like you trying to protect yourself, but what it's really doing is pulling you away from who you were meant to become. If you're honest, you felt that pull more times than you can count. Moments when you knew what needed to be done, but something inside held you back. Moments when you had the opportunity, the clarity, even the hunger, but fear won. Not because fear is stronger than you, but because you listened to it as if it were the truth. But fear is not the truth. Fear is a test, a question. It asks, how badly do you want it? And your answer isn't what you say, it's what you do next. You don't overcome self-sabotage by hoping it goes away. You overcome it by seeing it for what it is, a habit, a mental loop, and the only way to break a habit is to interrupt it with action. Imperfect, messy, real action, not waiting for the right time, not waiting to feel ready, because readiness is a lie. The people who change their lives don't wait to feel confident. They take the step and the confidence is built on the other side. The moment you stop waiting to feel right and start doing what's right, your life shifts. Not because everything gets easier, but because you get stronger. You start to realize that discipline is freedom. That showing up for yourself, even when it's hard, is a form of self-respect. And the more you do it, the more you begin to trust yourself again. That's what you've been missing, trust. Not in the world, not in luck, in you, in your ability to follow through. Because when you trust yourself, sabotage loses its power. You stop believing the excuses. You stop retreating into comfort. You begin to rise. And from that rise, everything changes. Not just what you do, but who you are. You become the kind of person who wins the fight within. Not by chance, but by choice. Your choice. Right now, comfort feels safe. That's the trap. It promises peace, but delivers emptiness. It's the slow poison that keeps you numb while your potential rots beneath the surface. And the danger isn't in how it looks, it's in how it feels. Because comfort doesn't feel like failure. It feels like a warm blanket on a cold day. It feels like rest, like ease. But behind that ease is a quiet, growing pain. The pain of knowing you were built for more but chose less, again and again. You don't see it at first, you just notice you're drifting. Losing momentum, making smaller moves, shrinking your goals to fit the mood you're in. Telling yourself you'll try harder tomorrow, but tomorrow turns into next week, and next week turns into never. That's how comfort steals your life. Not in one big moment, but in 1,000 tiny compromises. And you don't even notice the damage until you wake up one day and realize you don't recognize the person you've become. That's the real cost of staying comfortable. You don't just lose time, you lose yourself. The fire inside dims, your confidence slips, your edge dulls, you stop believing, not because the dream was impossible, but because you got used to a life that asked nothing of you. But comfort never cared about your purpose. It only cares about your peace, and peace without purpose is a slow death. You were not made to coast, you were made to climb, to break, to rebuild, to rise. Everything you want lives beyond your comfort zone. The growth, the pride, the identity shift. It's all out there waiting on the other side of resistance. And yes, it will hurt. Yes, it will stretch you. That's the point. If it didn't challenge you, it wouldn't change you. That ache you feel when you push yourself, that's not weakness. That's your future self being forged in real time. Pain is the toll for transformation. Pay it. Stop trying to make life easier. Make yourself stronger. Don't pray for the path to get smoother. Learn to carry the weight. Because the truth is, the comfort zone isn't a place. It's a decision. A decision to stay small, a decision to settle, but you're here because you're done with that. You're here because some part of you knows that comfort has cost you too much already. Time, energy, self-respect. And you don't get those back by doing the same thing that lost them. You get them back by doing what's hard, what's uncomfortable, what forces you to evolve. And every time you choose discomfort over delay, pressure over passivity, progress over perfection, you take your power back. You get one step closer to the version of you that doesn't flinch, doesn't fold, doesn't fade. The one who shows up no matter how it feels. That version is waiting, but it can only exist on the other side of comfort. Walk through the fire. There's freedom there. There's you, unapologetic, unbreakable, and unstoppable. There's a voice inside you that's been lying for years. It sounds like reason. It sounds like protection, but it's fear in disguise. It tells you to wait. It tells you to be cautious. It reminds you of everything that went wrong before, and every time you listen, every time you obey, that voice gets louder. It starts to sound like truth. It starts to sound like you. But that voice is not who you are. It's who you've been trained to be, molded by pain, programmed by doubt, reinforced by years of shrinking in the face of challenge. It says, don't speak up, don't stand out, don't try again. It remembers your failures and forgets your victories. It clings to rejection like a scar and erases your courage. It will do anything to keep you small because small feels safe. But playing small isn't safe, it's suffocating. It doesn't protect you, it buries you. And the longer you listen, the more you forget what your real voice sounds like. The voice of fire, the voice of fight, the voice that says this is not where it ends. That voice is still in you. It's not gone, it's just been silenced. Drowned out by the noise of fear, the weight of failure, the pressure to fit into a life that never fit you. But it's still there, waiting to rise again. Not when the fear disappears, but when you stop mistaking fear for fact. Just because something feels true doesn't mean it is. Emotions aren't always evidence, they're signals. and sometimes they lie. That pit in your stomach, that's not always danger. Sometimes it's growth. Sometimes it's you brushing up against a boundary you were meant to break. You can't silence that inner critic by arguing with it. You silence it by proving it wrong through action, through movement, through refusing to bow to its words. Because the moment you stop obeying that voice, your life changes. You begin to see yourself not as a prisoner of fear, but as the architect of freedom. You start to understand that your power never left. You just stopped using it. You don't need to feel brave to take the first step. You just need to take it. Courage isn't loud. It's quiet. It's calm. It's the whisper that says, go anyway. And that whisper becomes a roar with every step forward. Every moment you rise, every decision you make that contradicts the fear, that's how you reclaim your mind. One small act of defiance at a time, until that false voice of fear gets quieter and your true voice takes its place. You are not your doubt. You are not your fear. You are not the voice that tells you to give up. You are the one who rises, the one who decides, the one who dares. Silence the lie by becoming the proof. Let your actions speak louder than the voice that tried to stop you. You weren't born to live quiet. You weren't built to hide behind hesitation and fear. You were made to expand, to stretch, to leave your mark. But playing small has a cost, and it's one you've already paid for far too long. Every time you silence your voice to avoid judgment, every time you hold back so others feel comfortable, every time you bury your fire because you're afraid to burn too brightly, you lose a piece of yourself. And deep down, you know it. You feel it. That ache in your chest when you settle. That knot in your stomach when you say yes to things that don't align. That silent scream inside you begging for more. You don't need another sign. You don't need permission. What you need is a moment of brutal honesty. A look in the mirror that says, I'm done pretending this is enough. Because when you play small, the world doesn't just miss out on your gifts. You miss out on your life. You watch it pass by in slow motion. Opportunities slip through your hands, confidence fades, and eventually even your desires shrink, not because they weren't real, but because you stopped believing they were possible. But just because you've played small doesn't mean you're small. That was survival. That was you doing what you had to do. But you're not there anymore. You're not the same. You've seen too much, felt too much, lost too much to keep pretending you were meant to stay hidden. The world may not know your name yet, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that you decide to rise right here, right now, not for validation, but for freedom, for alignment, for the unshakable peace that only comes when you finally live in full expression of who you are. There will be people who don't understand. Let them. There will be voices that question your change. Ignore them. The only voice that matters now is the one you've ignored for far too long, your own. Let it be loud. Let it be clear. Let it lead. Because when you stop shrinking, when you stop apologizing for your existence, you give others permission to do the same. You become a mirror that reflects possibility, not perfection, not some polished image of success, but raw, honest, fearless humanity. Your time for silence is over. Your time for hiding is done. You weren't made to dim your light just to fit into places you've outgrown. You were made to rise, boldly, unapologetically. And even if your voice shakes, even if your knees tremble, you speak, you move, you live as if your life depends on it, because it does. The real you is not weak. The real you is waiting to be unleashed. And the longer you wait, the more you suffer. Stop waiting. Step forward, take up space, own your place, and never ever shrink again. There is a cost to staying the same, and it's higher than you think. You don't feel it all at once. You feel it in pieces. Frustration without cause, energy without direction, a heaviness in your chest that never fully leaves. You feel it when your dreams grow quieter and your doubts grow louder. You feel it in the distance between who you are and who you could be. And that gap, that quiet growing gap, is what steals your peace. Because deep down, you know the truth. You know you're capable of more. You know you've been holding back, and pretending otherwise only deepens the pain. Change isn't just about achievement, it's about alignment. It's about living a life that makes sense on the inside, not just one that looks good on the outside. Because if your external life is growing, but your internal world feels like it's dying, that's not success, that's self-abandonment. And you weren't made to abandon yourself. You were made to evolve. You were made to expand into the version of you that doesn't just survive, but thrives. Not through luck, not through perfection, but through relentless honesty and courage. If you're tired, it's not always because you're doing too much. Sometimes it's because you're doing too little of what matters. You've been carrying the weight of unspoken dreams, holding back your truth, living a version of life that feels acceptable but not alive. That kind of life doesn't just drain you, it breaks you slowly. You deserve more than survival, but you'll never reach it by clinging to what's familiar. Growth demands a choice, a conscious, repeated decision to stop settling and start stepping. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to stop pretending you're okay with where you are. That honesty alone can change everything. Because when you admit you're not fulfilled, when you stop numbing and start listening, the path becomes clearer. The next move rises to the surface. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped lying to yourself. That's where your power begins. In truth. Raw, unfiltered, uncomfortable truth. The kind that doesn't care about your ego. The kind that pulls you forward whether you feel ready or not. This isn't about fixing yourself. You're not broken. This is about finding your way back to the part of you that's been buried beneath years of doubt, fear, and pretending. That version of you still exists. It's not gone. It's just been waiting for you to stop running from the work, for you to stop hiding behind excuses, for you to finally say, I'm ready to become who I was meant to be. And the second you do, everything shifts. Not because the road gets easier, but because you stop fearing the climb. And when you stop fearing the climb, you rise, relentless, focused, unstoppable. Fear doesn't mean stop. It means go. It means you're facing something that matters, something real. The moment you feel fear is the moment you know you've touched the edge of your current identity. You're brushing up against the limit of who you've been, and everything inside you resists that. Not because you're weak, but because your mind was trained to protect, not to transform, and transformation always feels like danger. Not because it is, but because it threatens the version of you that's familiar, the one you've outgrown. That fear is a signal. It's a signpost that you're heading in the right direction. Because if there's nothing to fear, there's nothing to change. Growth only happens in discomfort, and discomfort always walks with fear. You can't wait for the fear to disappear. You walk with it, you speak through it, you move anyway. That's the price of rising, the price of becoming more. You show up while your heart is pounding, your hands are shaking, your voice is cracking, and you do it anyway. Because fear is just energy. Energy that you can either let cage you or fuel you. Most people wait. They wait until the fear goes away, until the path is clear, until the timing feels perfect. But fear never fully leaves. It just changes shape. And if you let it lead, it will keep shrinking your life until you're surviving in a space meant for half of who you are. You weren't built to live in fear. You were built to rise through it. And every time you act despite it, something powerful happens. You teach your nervous system that it's safe to grow, safe to stretch, safe to take up space. That's how confidence is built. Not by eliminating fear, but by dancing with it until it can no longer lead. There's a version of you waiting on the other side of that fear. A stronger you, a bolder you, the you who speaks, moves, creates, and leads without apology. And you can't reach them by staying safe. You reach them by pushing through the tight spaces, the vulnerable spaces, the places where most people stop, but you won't stop because you've already tasted what it feels like to hold back, to hesitate, to shrink, and you know that pain runs deeper than any fear ever could. Fear will try to make you forget who you are, but your job is to remember. Remember that you are not here to tiptoe through life. You are here to break patterns, to break silence, to break through. So feel the fear, acknowledge it, let it rise, and then move anyway. Show yourself what you're made of, not once, every day. That's how you reclaim your power. That's how you build an identity rooted in courage. And that's how you finally become the person you've always known you were meant to be, one fearless choice at a time. Growth doesn't come without pain. It's not clean. It's not convenient. It doesn't wait for the right moment. It demands something from you. It asks you to let go of who you were. It strips away your excuses, your distractions, your masks, and in that space, raw, uncertain, exposed, you either step forward or step back. There is no middle. The path to becoming more will cost you something. It will cost comfort. It will cost who you thought you had to be. It will cost the old version of yourself that found safety in staying silent, small, and unseen. You don't evolve by wishing for it. You evolve by choosing it again and again, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts, because that pain is the proof that something inside you is breaking open. Not breaking down, breaking open. The old stories, the false identities, the lies you've believed about your worth, they begin to fall apart. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's messy. But you don't grow by protecting the shell. You grow by outgrowing it. And the moment you stop running from the discomfort is the moment you begin to rise. This is where most people quit. Not because they aren't capable, but because they expect transformation to feel good. It doesn't. It feels like loss, like grief, like confusion. But underneath all of that is the birth of something real. A self that is no longer tied to fear. A self that no longer needs approval to move forward. A self that walks through the fire and comes out forged, not broken. This version of you doesn't care about ease. It craves freedom. And freedom only comes when you've proven to yourself that you can face the hard things and not flinch. There is a moment when it all clicks. When the pain doesn't scare you anymore because you understand its purpose. It's not there to punish. It's there to prepare. Every obstacle, every setback, every moment you wanted to quit but didn't, it's all shaping you into someone unshakable. That's what's waiting on the other side. Not perfection, not applause. Power. Power rooted in resilience. Confidence born from action. Identity rebuilt on truth, not fear. But you have to go through it, not around it, through it. No shortcuts, no bypasses. Just you facing everything you once ran from and choosing to stand tall. That's where the shift happens. That's when you stop negotiating with your limits. That's when you stop looking for the easy way out and start becoming the kind of person who finishes what they start. You've already survived so much. Don't stop now. Let the discomfort shape you. Let the process transform you. Burn the old version of you to the ground if you must, but rise, stronger, clearer, unshakable. This is what it takes, and you are ready. Look in the mirror, not to judge yourself, but to meet the person responsible for your future. Everything you're chasing, everything you say you want, starts and ends with that reflection. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to drag you out of bed. Silence your fears, rewrite your story. That's your job. And the sooner you own that, the sooner you rise. Because transformation doesn't happen through hope, it happens through ownership. The moment you stop blaming, stop pointing, stop waiting, is the moment you take your power back. It's not about what's happened to you. It's not about the people who didn't support you. It's not even about the time you think you've lost. It's about what you decide to do now, in this moment, with what you have, with who you are. The mirror shows you two things, the pain of your excuses and the potential of your action. And only one of those will define your life. You can keep looking away, pretending you're not meant for more, or you can face yourself fully and make a new decision. Nothing changes until you get brutally honest. Not just about what you want, but about what you've avoided. The work you haven't done, the truth you haven't faced. It's easy to dream, it's easy to plan. But the mirror doesn't care about potential. It reflects patterns. And if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep seeing the same version of you staring back. That's not destiny, that's choice, and you get to change it. But only if you stop negotiating with your weaknesses. The mirror is not your enemy, it's your teacher. It shows you where you've fallen, where you've faked it, where you've disappeared into comfort, but it also shows you where your power lives. In the eyes that still have fight, in the face that's weathered storms and is still standing. You are not the reflection of your failures. You are the proof that they didn't finish you, that you're still here, still breathing, still capable of everything you thought you missed. But capability means nothing without action. You can know your worth and still waste it. You can speak strength and still not live it. So don't just look, decide. Decide who you're going to be from this moment forward. Decide to show up with discipline, with intention, with fire, not someday, now. Every time you walk past that mirror, ask yourself, am I proud of the person staring back? And if the answer is no, then good, because now you've got a reason to fight, a reason to rise, a reason to become the person you were always meant to be. No more hiding, no more hoping, just truth, just choice, just you, against you. And this time, you win. There's a voice in your head that whispers you're not ready, that you need more time, more approval, more clarity. But that voice isn't truth. It's fear dressed in logic. It pretends to protect you, but all it does is pause your life. And every time you listen to it, you reinforce the lie that you're not enough, that you need to be more, do more, wait more before you can finally move. But the truth is, you're already carrying everything you need. You just haven't trusted yourself to use it. You've forgotten that action builds clarity, that courage creates confidence, that the only way to feel ready is to move before you are. Readiness is a myth. No one feels fully prepared when they step into something greater. You grow into your power by choosing it before it feels safe. Waiting only keeps you trapped in the cycle of almost starting, almost changing, almost living. But almost doesn't count. Almost won't carry you. You weren't born to live in hesitation. You were born to lead your own life, boldly, loudly, decisively, and that begins the moment you stop seeking permission to be powerful. The world will try to convince you that you need validation to matter, that someone else has to believe in you first. But your future doesn't need their approval, it needs your action, because no one can hand you belief. You build it with every decision to keep going, every moment you refuse to shrink, every time you silence the noise and listen to your own knowing. That's what real strength looks like. Not perfection, not certainty, just relentless action in the direction of who you're becoming. When you commit to yourself fully, everything changes. Not instantly, not magically, but deeply. Because you begin to align your life with your truth. You stop playing small to keep others comfortable. You stop second-guessing what your heart already knows. And you start living in a way that says, I'm not here to fit in, I'm here to wake up. You stop waiting for the perfect moment and decide that this moment is enough, that you are enough, as you are, not someday, now. You don't have to feel fearless to act. You just have to stop letting fear decide. You don't have to feel confident to move. You just have to stop letting doubt hold the reins. Everything you want exists on the other side of your next decision. And the longer you delay, the more you train your mind to distrust your own power. So take it back. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait to be perfect. Just choose. Choose to rise. Choose to act. Choose to believe that this version of you right now is worthy of everything they dream of. Not because someone said so, but because you said so, and that's enough. Every decision you avoid becomes weight you carry. And over time, that weight starts to feel normal. You tell yourself you're just tired, just busy, just not the right time. But deep down, you know, you're carrying the burden of unmade choices, of avoided growth, of dreams you keep putting off. And the longer you wait, the heavier it gets. It drags on your energy, your focus, your peace. You feel it in your chest, your gut, your silence. That quiet frustration isn't random. It's your soul asking for movement, for honesty, for a life that reflects the truth inside you. You were not designed to live stuck. You were not created for hesitation. You are here to evolve, to stretch, to break through your own limits. But breakthrough doesn't happen in comfort. It happens when you face the very things you've been running from. The hard conversations, the bold risks, the real decisions, the parts of yourself you've kept hidden. When you confront what scares you, you reclaim what belongs to you. You take back your courage. You take back your strength. And you begin to rise, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Growth demands discomfort. It demands sacrifice. It asks you to give up who you were for who you could become. That means letting go of old stories. The ones that say you're not enough. The ones that say you always fail. The ones that say people like you don't succeed. Those stories are not your truth, they're your cage. And every time you repeat them, you reinforce the walls around your potential. But the moment you challenge them, the moment you say no more, those walls begin to crack. And through that crack, your real self begins to emerge. This isn't about pretending to be fearless. It's about being honest with your fear and choosing to rise anyway. It's about standing in front of your excuses and saying, you don't run my life anymore. Because they've run it long enough. And where have they taken you? Into doubt, into delay, into dreams deferred. But that ends the moment you decide to act. The moment you stop hoping and start doing. The moment you become unavailable for anything less than the life you know you're capable of living. You don't need perfect conditions. You need a decision. You need to stop giving your power to distraction, delay, and doubt. You need to anchor yourself in the now, in this breath, in this chance. You're not stuck, you're paused, and you can unpause your life the second you choose to. You can reclaim your fire. You can reignite your path, not by waiting for clarity, but by becoming the force that creates it. One choice, one step, one moment of truth. That's how everything shifts. That's how you win, not later. Now, you've been conditioned to wait for signs, for the perfect alignment, for the magical feeling that will tell you it's time. But life doesn't send signs, it responds to energy, to movement, to the choice you make when no one is watching, when the doubt is loud and the fear is real. That moment when you decide to act anyway, that's when the shift begins. That's when momentum is born. Not from luck, not from chance, from intention, from presence, from claiming your power in real time and refusing to let fear write the ending. There is a version of you that doesn't hesitate, that doesn't shrink, that doesn't apologize for being hungry for more. That version of you isn't a fantasy, it's your default, buried under layers of overthinking and overprotecting. You've spent years building walls to keep yourself safe, only to realize those same walls are keeping your future out. And now, it's time to dismantle them. Not all at once, but brick by brick. With every honest choice, with every moment you say, I choose to show up fully, you don't find yourself. You meet yourself when you finally stop hiding. Nothing changes until you do. And that means taking radical ownership of your life. No more blaming time, no more blaming others, no more waiting for someone to understand you before you understand yourself. This is your responsibility, your rise, your becoming, and that means making peace with discomfort. Growth will stretch you, discipline will test you. But the alternative is stagnation, and you already know how that feels. You already know the costs of standing still. You've lived it. The ache of potential wasted, the tension of dreams unexpressed, the quiet regret that grows louder with every day you settle. But regret is not your destiny. You are not here to survive. You are here to expand. And expansion doesn't ask for ease. It asks for truth. It asks for action. It asks for everything you've been holding back. And when you give it, when you finally stop waiting and start becoming, the world responds. Not because you proved anything, but because you finally aligned your life with who you really are. You already have the fire. You already have the vision. Now you need the commitment. Not a someday kind of commitment, a now kind, a daily choice to rise above the noise, a refusal to let emotions lead when discipline is what's required. There will be doubt. There will be resistance. That's not a sign to stop. It's a sign that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Transformation isn't comfortable. It's messy. It's hard. But it's worth it. Because on the other side of discomfort is freedom, the kind that can't be faked, the kind that can't be given, only earned, only lived. And it starts with you choosing to stop waiting and start living like the person you were always meant to be. You already know what needs to be done. It's not a mystery, it's not hidden. It's staring you in the face every morning when you wake up with that weight in your chest. That feeling you keep pushing down, the one that whispers there's more in you. That is the truth you've been trying to outrun. But you can't escape what you are meant to become. And no matter how long you avoid it, that voice will get louder. It will grow stronger. Because it's not trying to shame you. It's trying to wake you up. It's trying to bring you back to yourself. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're not too late. You're simply in the tension of becoming, the space between who you were and who you're meant to be. And that space is supposed to feel hard. It's supposed to stretch you. It's supposed to challenge your identity, your limits, your patterns. That's the purpose, because you cannot bring the old you into the life you're dreaming of. That version of you, the one that doubts, delays, avoids, was built for survival. But the next version of you, the one who acts with clarity, who owns their power, who creates instead of reacts, that version is built for freedom. Freedom isn't about everything feeling easy. It's about being fully aligned. It's the deep peace that comes when your actions reflect your truth, when your habits mirror your highest values, when your choices stop contradicting your dreams, and the moment you begin living like your future matters more than your feelings, everything changes. That's not suppression. That's maturity. That's discipline. That's you deciding that your purpose is more important than your comfort. Most people never get there. Not because they aren't capable, but because they're addicted to ease. They wait to feel ready. They wait to feel motivated. But your future doesn't care how you feel. It only responds to what you do. That's the hard truth. And the beautiful part is, you're not a slave to your feelings. You can act without them. You can move forward scared. You can show up uncertain, because the act of showing up creates the momentum you thought you needed first. Discipline breeds clarity. Repetition builds identity, and identity shapes destiny. So if you're tired of being stuck, it's time to make a different choice. Not someday, not when it's easier. Now. Decide who you are. Decide what matters. Decide what you'll no longer tolerate from yourself. And then follow through, not perfectly, but consistently. The breakthrough is not in one massive leap. It's in the quiet, stubborn commitment to take the next honest step. Over and over. especially when it's hard, especially when it's inconvenient, because that's where greatness is forged. In the fire of resistance, in the face of excuses, in the silence of small decisions that no one sees but you feel. And those choices, stacked day by day, become the life you are always meant to live. You are not meant to stay hidden. You are not here to play small. There is something inside you that refuses to settle, something that knows you were made for more. That part of you is not lying. It's not being unrealistic. It's not asking for too much. It's asking you to remember who you are before the world convinced you to doubt it. Every excuse, every delay, every fear, it's just noise from the past, noise from old wounds, noise from a mind trained to survive, not to soar. But there comes a moment when surviving is no longer enough, when you realize that safety is the enemy of growth, when comfort becomes a cage. Growth demands discomfort. It demands risk. It demands that you step into rooms where you don't feel ready, speak words you're scared to say, and hold yourself to standards no one else will. That's the cost. That's the entry fee for becoming who you were born to be. You don't get transformation without friction, you don't get strength without resistance, and you don't get power without pain. The world doesn't give you permission to rise. You take it, you claim it, not with arrogance, but with quiet certainty. The certainty that says, I've had enough of who I've been, I'm ready for what I can become. It's not about being fearless, it's about being honest. Honest about your excuses, honest about your effort, honest about the ways you've held yourself back. That kind of honesty hurts at first, but it heals over time. It frees you from blame. It puts you back in control, because you cannot change what you won't take responsibility for. Your life doesn't transform because of what others do for you. It transforms when you take full ownership of it. That is the moment you stop being a victim of your own patterns and start becoming the architect of your future. Every great shift begins with one brave decision to stop waiting and start acting, to stop wondering and start becoming. That decision won't feel grand. It may feel terrifying, but it's the doorway to your next level. And what you'll find on the other side is not perfection, not instant success, but progress, real, gritty, uncomfortable progress, the kind that changes your wiring, the kind that makes you stronger every time you keep going when quitting feels easier. This is your turning point, not because it's dramatic, but because it's real. You've reached the edge of who you were, and now you get to choose retreat or rise, hide or heal, settle or stretch. You've carried the weight of who you were long enough. It's time to release it. It's time to stop shrinking for the comfort of others or the approval of a past version of yourself. You don't need permission to evolve. You need the courage to act right here, right now, because no one is coming to save you. This is you against yourself, and it's time you win. You already know what needs to be done. Deep down, beneath the noise of doubt and the layers of hesitation, there's a quiet truth you've tried to ignore. It speaks not with panic, but with clarity. It doesn't shout, it whispers. And in that whisper is everything you've been searching for. You're not stuck because you lack talent, time, or tools. You're stuck because you keep waiting for permission. Permission to believe in yourself. Permission to go all in. Permission to finally stop looking back and start moving forward. But the truth is, no one is coming to hand you that permission slip. You write it yourself. The battle is not against the world. It never was. It's against the version of you that clings to the familiar. The one that's mastered survival, but fears success. The one that's been broken before and is terrified of breaking again. But growth is not about never breaking. It's about breaking differently. It's about choosing to break through instead of break down. You're not here to live the same story over and over. You're here to rewrite it. You're here to rise from the patterns that have trapped you and prove to yourself that you are no longer ruled by fear. You've given fear enough of your life. It's taken years, stolen dreams, and robbed you of moments you'll never get back. But it doesn't get to take your future. Not unless you hand it over. And that's the real power. Understanding that fear doesn't vanish, but it can be outgrown. You don't fight fear by running from it. You fight it by facing it. You fight it by choosing to act in spite of it. The first time will feel unnatural. The second time will feel uncomfortable. But the third, fourth, and 100th time, it becomes who you are. It becomes strength. It becomes freedom. This is not about hype. It's not about pretending everything is okay. It's about choosing to take your power back piece by piece, action by action. No one can give you that power. They can't inspire it into you. It has to be claimed, owned, lived. And every time you show up for yourself, Every time you say yes to growth and no to fear, you reinforce that claim. You shift your identity. You become the kind of person who doesn't retreat when things get hard, but leans into the resistance and uses it to rise. The most dangerous lie you'll ever believe is that you're not ready. But readiness isn't a feeling. It's a decision. You decide that you're enough, not because you've proven it to others, but because you've finally chosen to prove it to yourself. Everything you need is already in you. Courage, strength, resilience. You just have to stop waiting for it to feel easy. It won't, not at first. But ease is not the goal. Growth is, and growth starts now, not someday. Not when you feel perfect. Right now. You against yourself. This is where you win.